My mother smiled sweetly at the charity luncheon and said, "At least Olivia knows what real dedication looks like, completely devoted to her career." She had no idea my husband had just texted me from our hotel room 2 miles away, or that our 4-year-old daughter was probably coloring in her princess book in a suite my mother didn't know I could afford. She called me admirably focused. I had a successful marketing agency, a loving husband, and a daughter who insisted that unicorns were real because magic is everywhere, mommy. And I was about to expose everything at her own fundraising gala. My name is Olivia Martinez, and at 34, I've perfected the art of living 2 completely separate lives. In one, I'm the career-obsessed daughter my mother sees, single by choice, fiercely independent, living alone in what she believes is a modest downtown apartment. In the other, I'm exactly who I want to be. A successful entrepreneur, wife to a brilliant software engineer, and mother to a spirited 4-year-old who thinks wearing tutus with rain boots is the height of fashion. The luncheon, where my mother delivered her latest observation about my admirable dedication to professional success, was just another performance in the Martinez family theater. We were gathered at the exclusive Ocean View Country Club in Newport Beach, the kind of place where even the salad forks had social status. My younger brother had just announced his engagement to a corporate lawyer, the perfect addition to our family's collection of approved relationships. "Such wonderful news, Diego," Mother cooed, her perfectly manicured hands clasped together like she was praying to the patron saint of social advancement. Finally, someone who understands the importance of building a proper life. Then her gaze shifted to me, and I knew what was coming. I always knew. "Perhaps you could learn something from your brother, Olivia. He's 3 years younger and already securing his future, building something meaningful." I took a sip of my sparkling water, the expensive imported stuff, because nothing else was acceptable at Martinez gatherings. 30 minutes earlier, James had kissed me goodbye in the parking lot of the Marriott down the street. "Break a leg out there, babe," he'd whispered, knowing I'd never tell them about him. Not yet. "I'm building something meaningful too, Mom," I replied, the same script I'd been reciting for 3 years. "My agency is doing really well." "Your little marketing business," she said, with that dismissive wave that could deflate dreams. "That's lovely, dear, but what about your personal life? What about your future?" My Uncle Fernando nodded sagely. My Aunt Rosa made that sympathetic tutting sound. Diego's fiancé, the corporate lawyer, looked uncomfortable. She was new to our family's particular brand of emotional blood sport. What would they say if they knew the truth? That right now, while they dissected my supposed emptiness over overpriced Cobb salads, my daughter Emma was probably negotiating with her father about whether she could have ice cream before lunch. She had my determination and James's gentle logic, a combination that usually resulted in elaborate discussions about the nutritional value of frozen yogurt versus actual ice cream. I'd hidden them for 3 years. 3 years of carefully orchestrated schedules, strategic alibis, and maintaining a fake studio apartment that my mother believed was my sad, single woman's den. The decoy apartment gathered dust and held just enough personal items to pass inspection during her surprise visits. Yes, Carmen Martinez always had spare keys to everything she thought she owned, including her children's lives. My actual home, the one James and I had bought with our combined savings and my agency's profits, sat in Manhattan Beach, 40 minutes from the suburban performance. Nothing ostentatious by Martinez standards, just a charming 1940s cottage with enough yard space for Emma to chase butterflies. Emma's artwork covered every wall, like a gallery of pure joy. James's tech books lived in happy chaos with my marketing journals. It smelled like vanilla candles, and the lavender spray Emma insisted made everything more magical. "Are you even listening to me, Olivia?" Mother's voice sliced through my thoughts like a perfectly sharpened knife. "I was saying that Maria's daughter just got engaged. You remember Maria from the club? Her daughter married a cardiologist last year." She paused for dramatic effect, the way she did when delivering what she considered life-changing information. "They're expecting their first child. Maria was asking about you, wondering what you're waiting for. What I'm waiting for. If only she knew I wasn't waiting for anything. I already had everything I'd ever dreamed of." "Maybe I'm exactly where I need to be," I said, knowing it would slide off her like water off marble. "Don't be ridiculous," she said, straightening her designer blazer. "You're a Martinez woman. We don't waste our prime years on career experiments. We build families. We create legacies. We contribute to society in meaningful ways." Meaningful ways. Like her charity boards, where she spent more on a single luncheon than most families spent on groceries in a month. Like the social climbing disguised as philanthropy. Like the way she'd systematically dismissed every dream I'd had that didn't fit her narrow definition of feminine success. "Speaking of contributions," she continued, her voice taking on that particular tone that meant trouble, "the Hernandez family's eldest son just opened his own medical practice, orthopedic surgery. I could arrange a casual introduction." "No." The word came out sharper than intended. The table went silent. Even the country club's ambient chatter seemed to pause mid-conversation. "I beg your pardon?" Mother's eyebrows rose in that expression that had terrified me in childhood. "I said no, Mom. No more setups. No more casual introductions with eligible doctors or lawyers or investment bankers. Olivia Carmen Martinez." Each name was delivered like a court summons. "You're being unreasonable. I'm being honest. I'm being an adult making her own choices." My brother Diego shifted uncomfortably in his designer suit. His fiancée was definitely reconsidering her life choices. Welcome to the family, sweetie. Mother's face had taken on that particular shade of pink that preceded either a migraine or a legendary Martinez confrontation. This is exactly why you're alone. This attitude, this stubborn refusal to accept guidance from those who know better. Those who know better. The same people who thought happiness could be measured in wedding ring carrots and country club memberships, who believed love was a strategic alliance with good tax benefits. I thought about telling her right then. The words bubbled up like champagne ready to overflow. Actually, Mom, I'm not alone. I have a husband who codes solutions to make people's lives better and thinks I'm brilliant, even when I'm covered in finger paint from helping Emma with art projects. I have a daughter who calls butterflies flying flowers and insists on kissing every stuffed animal goodnight. I have a life so full of love that sometimes I can't sleep because I'm afraid it's all a dream. But I swallowed the words like I always did. Not because I was ashamed. God, I was so proud of my little fam, but because I knew she'd try to destroy it. She'd show up with her judgments and her money and her connections, trying to fix what wasn't broken, trying to mold James into someone he wasn't, trying to turn Emma into another perfect Martinez princess. I wasn't ready for that war. Not yet. So I smiled. That practiced Martinez smile that revealed nothing. You're right, Mom. I should be more open to new opportunities. She relaxed slightly, victory temporarily achieved. The conversation moved on to safer topics. Diego's wedding plans, the new spa treatments at the club, which of their friends had gotten divorced and who was to blame for their poor choices. I nodded at appropriate intervals, made the right sounds, played my part. But my mind was already home, where James would be waiting with takeout from our favorite Thai place, where Emma would demand piggyback rides before bedtime, where I wasn't Olivia Martinez, disappointing spinster daughter, but just Olivia. Loved, chosen, complete. As the luncheon concluded and I prepared to leave, Mother pulled me aside. I worry about you, darling, she said, and for a moment I saw something almost like genuine concern in her eyes. I know, I replied, because she did worry, just about the wrong things. Let me help you, Olivia. Let me introduce you to someone suitable. You're running out of time. Running out of time. As if life was a race with a finish line marked, married with children by 30 or spinster forever. As if the life I'd built outside her narrow vision was just a placeholder until I found a man with the right credentials to make me complete. I'll think about it. I promised. Another lie to add to the collection. She kissed my cheek, her lips barely grazing the skin. The Martinez way. Affection without warmth, duty without connection. Drive safely, that car of yours is getting old. My 3-year-old Honda, perfectly reliable and fully paid off. Another disappointment in the ledger of my inadequate life. I walked to my allegedly inadequate car, breathing in the salty California air. Somewhere across town, my real life waited. In 30 minutes, I'd shed this skin like a snake, transform back into the woman I actually was. James would ask how it went, and I'd tell him the truth, that it was exhausting and soul-crushing, and that I loved him more for every moment he wasn't there to witness it. My phone buzzed, a text from James. Emma negotiated 2 extra stories in exchange for eating her broccoli. She's a master negotiator. Also, she asked if Grandma Carmen lives in Elsa's castle. I said it's possible. I laughed. A real laugh that would have horrified my mother with its lack of restraint. 3 years of this double life. 3 years of secrets and lies and careful choreography. But sitting in that country club parking lot, I made a decision. Not tonight, not next week, but soon. Very soon. Carmen Martinez would learn exactly who her daughter had become. And when that day came, I wouldn't need her approval anymore. I'd already found something better, a life worth living, even if I had to hide it in the shadows for now. Chapter 2. The Foundation of Secrets. Growing up in the Martinez household was like living in a showroom where you were both the merchandise and the sales associate. Every move was cataloged, evaluated, and usually found lacking. The house itself, a sprawling Mediterranean revival in Newport Beach with more rooms than reasons to use them, stood as a monument to my father's success and my perpetual failure to meet expectations. My father, Roberto Martinez, was the velvet glove hiding the iron fist in our family. Where my mother was all sharp edges and cutting remarks, he was smooth words and quiet disappointments. He'd built Martinez Construction from a small contracting business into a real estate development empire, and he expected his children to be equally impressive achievements in his legacy portfolio. Your mother means well, he'd say whenever I showed signs of rebellion against the family plan, the same diplomatic deflection he'd been using for 20 years. She just wants you to have security, Misha. She wants you to be protected. Protected. As if choosing my own path was dangerous rather than empowering. My childhood schedule was managed like a Fortune 500 company. Ballet lessons. Quit after I refused to perform in the recital. Piano instruction. Ended when I started playing rock songs instead of classical. Spanish tutoring. Actually useful. And endless cotillion classes where I learned the proper way to do everything from accepting a dance invitation to declining unwanted romantic advances. Posture, Olivia. A Martinez woman carries herself with dignity. That laugh is too loud. Refined women don't cackle. Must you walk so fast? You're not rushing to catch a bus. Every correction chipped away at whoever I might have been naturally, sculpting me into her vision of the perfect daughter. My clothes were selected for appropriateness, my friends evaluated for family connections, my interests guided toward activities that reflected well on the Martinez name. I attended the right schools, not because I wanted to, but because Martinez women had always attended them. I dated the right boys, sons of dad's business associates, future masters of their own family empires, who talked about their trust funds with the same passion I felt for absolutely nothing in my prescribed life. The only rebellion I managed was in small, secret ways. Reading romance novels instead of the approved literature, listening to pop music on hidden earbuds, keeping a journal where I wrote about a life where I could choose my own happiness instead of having it defined by others. Then, when I was 22, everything changed. Dad had a stroke. It wasn't dramatic, no collapse at a board meeting or rushed ambulance ride. He simply felt dizzy during a site inspection, sat down on a folding chair, and couldn't get back up. That was Dad, understated even in crisis. The recovery was long and difficult. For months, he couldn't speak clearly, couldn't drive, couldn't manage the empire he'd built. Mother stepped in to manage everything, and in doing so revealed the true extent of her need for control. "Your father needs calm," she'd say whenever I tried to visit more than her approved schedule allowed. "He needs routine. He needs to focus on getting better, not worry about his children's poor choices." Without Dad's gentle interference, Mother's management of my life intensified. It was as if she believed that with enough pressure, she could compress me into the perfect Martinez daughter she'd always envisioned. My college major was guided toward business rather than the graphic design that actually interested me. My internship applications were redirected toward companies where the right people worked. My casual dates became formal evaluations of marriage potential. "The Morales boy is perfect for you," she announced one evening, having apparently decided my romantic life needed professional management. "UCLA MBA, comes from excellent stock. His mother and I have already discussed the possibilities." Discussed the possibilities? What am I, a business proposition? Don't be dramatic, Olivia. I'm simply ensuring you don't waste your best years on inappropriate choices. Inappropriate choices like wanting to build a creative career instead of marrying into one, like preferring art to accounting, like believing love should involve actual attraction rather than strategic planning. The parade of eligible bachelors began in earnest. Dinner parties where I'd find myself seated next to whichever USC graduate Mother had identified as husband material, charity events where she'd arranged chance encounters with suitable prospects, even family vacations that became opportunities for romantic ambushes. What a surprise running into the Castillos at Cabo. And their son just happens to be here too. What are the odds? The odds were zero, considering these encounters required extensive planning and careful coordination. "Mom, I finally exploded after the third ambush vacation. I'm capable of finding my own dates." "Evidence suggests otherwise," she'd replied coolly. "You're 28, Olivia. Your biological clock is ticking." My biological clock? As if I was a time bomb approaching detonation. Each setup followed the same script. Accomplished man from appropriate background would spend the evening discussing his achievements, his family's business interests, his 5-year plan for wealth accumulation and family building. I'd nod and smile, playing the part of the interested potential wife, while internally calculating how many minutes until I could politely escape. "Olivia seems charming," they'd tell Mother afterward. "So poised and attentive." Poised because I'd learned that my actual thoughts were consistently wrong. Attentive because I'd perfected the art of appearing engaged while mentally redecorating their entire personalities. The worst part, some of them weren't bad people, just wrong. Wrong for me, wrong for the life I wanted but couldn't articulate because I'd never been allowed to want anything specific. They looked at me and saw Carmen Martinez's daughter, breeding, connections, social status. They never saw Olivia, mainly because I'd hidden her so deep even I sometimes forgot where to look. By 30, the setups had taken on a desperate quality. Mother's matchmaking efforts became less subtle, more aggressive. She'd practically auction me off at events, her introductions laden with resume highlights and reproductive urgency. "This is my daughter, Olivia. Single, very single. Did I mention she has an MBA and she's single?" I started making excuses, work emergencies that didn't exist, friend crises that never happened, sudden migraines that miraculously cleared the moment the eligible bachelor left town. But Carmen Martinez was nothing if not persistent. For every excuse I made, she found a counter strategy. For every boundary I set, she found a workaround. "I'm only trying to help," she'd say when I protested. "Do you want to end up alone? Is that really what you want?" What I wanted was the freedom to discover what I wanted, to make mistakes that were mine to make, to choose solitude over the wrong partnership, if that's what it came to believe that being alone might be better than being with someone who saw me as a trophy to be won, rather than a person to be loved. But those weren't options in Carmen Martinez's world. In her universe, a woman without a suitable husband was like a beautiful house without an owner, technically complete, but obviously lacking something essential. The Christmas before I turned 31 was particularly brutal. She'd invited the Vega family to stay for the entire week between Christmas and New Year's. Their son, Miguel, was an investment banker who collected vintage wines and talked about women like they were portfolios, requiring careful diversification and risk management. "You two have so much in common," Mother insisted, though we had nothing in common beyond our mutual discomfort with the situation. I spent that week dodging Miguel's calculated romantic overtures. He approached dating like a financial analysis, complete with research about my background, assessment of our compatibility metrics, and projected returns on investment for a potential marriage. Your mother says you have an MBA, he'd mentioned over one particularly excruciating dinner conversation. That's practical. Of course, you wouldn't need to use it after children. I like using my education, I'd replied. Of course you do, but priorities shift. My mother gave up her career when she married Dad. She says it was the smartest investment she ever made. My education, our future, my preferences, apparently irrelevant to this entire calculation. That night, I locked myself in my childhood bathroom and cried. Not the pretty tears mother would approve of, but ugly, soul-wrenching sobs. At 30, I was still trapped in the same house, the same patterns, the same suffocating expectations. You'll thank me someday, Mother had said when the Vegas finally left, Miguel's business card pressed into my unwilling hand. When you're married with children, living a proper life, you'll understand that I did this all for you. For me. Everything was always for me, except nothing ever was. It was for the idea of me, the should-be version of me, the daughter she'd ordered but never quite received. Looking back now, from the safety of my real life with James and Emma, I can see those years more clearly. The casual cruelty of denying someone their own choices, the violence of forced conformity wrapped in maternal concern, the way she'd systematically trained me to doubt every instinct that didn't align with her vision. But I can also see the cracks I'd started making in her perfect facade. Every refused setup, every failed introduction, every time I said no when she expected yes. They were practice runs for the biggest rebellion of all. Because somewhere between the endless parade of eligible bachelors and the suffocating expectations, I'd made a decision. I was going to leave. I was going to build a life she couldn't control, even if I had to lie to do it. San Francisco was calling, and I was finally ready to answer. Chapter 3. The Great Liberation. The job offer from San Francisco arrived on a Thursday, delivered via email at 2:30 p.m. while I was enduring another family consultation about my future. A boutique marketing agency needed a senior strategist with my exact skill set. Somehow my portfolio had found its way to them despite Mother's best efforts to keep me focused on appropriate career paths. San Francisco. When I mentioned it to Mother that evening, she reacted like I'd announced my intention to join a traveling circus. That's practically another planet, she said, setting down her wine glass with dramatic precision. What could possibly be in San Francisco that isn't better here? Freedom, I thought, but didn't say. The chance to breathe without asking permission. The opportunity to build something that belonged to me rather than the Martinez legacy. It's an incredible opportunity, I tried to explain. The agency works with sustainable brands, companies that are actually making a difference. They want me to head their new client development division. Client development, she repeated slowly, like tasting something unpleasant. Olivia, you can't be serious. You'd leave everything here. Your family, your connections, your entire support system, to work for some startup that will probably fail within a year? It might fail, I admitted, but it might not. And either way, it would be my choice. The argument that followed was legendary, even by Martinez standards. She deployed every weapon in her arsenal. Guilt. Your father is still recovering. Fear. You'll be completely alone out there. Social pressure. What will people think? And finally, financial threats. Don't expect us to bail you out when this fantasy collapses. But for once, I held firm. The girl who'd spent 30 years bending finally found her spine. I'm going, Mom, with or without your blessing. Then it will be without, she'd said coldly. And when you come crawling back, because you will come crawling back, don't expect me to make it easy. I moved to San Francisco in March, driving up the coast in my Honda with everything I owned that truly mattered. The rest, the approved wardrobe, the family heirloom jewelry, the expectations, I left behind in Orange County. Those first months were terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. I'd never chosen my own apartment before. Never decorated according to my own taste, never grocery shopped without considering what Mother would think of my selections. Every decision, from wall colors to weekend activities, felt revolutionary. The job was demanding but fulfilling in ways I'd never experienced. My ideas mattered. My creativity was valued. My colleagues saw me as Olivia the strategist, not Olivia the disappointing daughter who'd failed to secure an appropriate marriage. For the first time in my life, I was building something based on talent rather than pedigree. Mother, predictably, didn't give up easily. The calls started immediately. How's your little adventure going? Voice dripping with skepticism. It's not an adventure. It's my career. Your career is here, Olivia. This phase you're going through. I'd hang up. Another first. Hanging up on Carmen Martinez. Then came the visits. She'd appear without warning, having flown up from Orange County to check on me. She'd inspect my apartment with the thoroughness of a health inspector, finding fault with everything from the neighborhood. Rather bohemian, this isn't it, to my furniture choices. So minimalist. I found you a lovely condo in Palo Alto. The Petersons' daughter just moved out. It would be perfect for when you come home. I am home, I'd insist, but she'd wave this away like smoke. The worst were her networking attempts. Even from Southern California, she managed to find connections in San Francisco. Suddenly, I'd get calls from random UCLA alumni who happened to be in town, sons of her charity board friends who were visiting for business. Once she actually flew up with a plastic surgeon in tow, claiming they'd been seated together on the plane, And wasn't it such a coincidence that he was single? Mom, you need to stop, I told her after the plastic surgeon incident. I'm not looking for a husband. I'm building a career. You can't marry a career, Olivia. You can't have children with a job. But I was learning that maybe I could have something else. A life that belonged to me. It was at a coffee shop in the Mission District where I first saw James. Not a setup, not an ambush, just a random Wednesday morning when the universe decided to be kind. He was at the corner table, completely absorbed in what looked like code on his laptop, occasionally muttering at the screen with the intensity of someone trying to solve world hunger through programming. When he caught me staring, instead of the practiced smile I expected, he grinned and said, "Sorry, I'm debugging what might be the world's most stubborn algorithm. You ever have those moments where technology seems personally offended by your existence?" Yes, I thought. My whole life with Mother was one long battle against personally offended expectations. We started talking about his work, developing apps to help nonprofits manage their volunteer programs, about mine trying to help sustainable brands tell their stories authentically, about the weather, the coffee, the way San Francisco felt like a place where you could reinvent yourself completely. "I'm James," he said eventually, extending a hand. "Olivia," I replied, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel the need to add Martinez, like a credential that might grant me credibility. We met for coffee the next week, then lunch, then dinner. Each time, I waited for him to ask about my family, my background, the things that usually came up when people were measuring your worth. But James asked different questions. What made me passionate about marketing? What did I want to change about how businesses communicate? If I could rebrand anything in the world, what would it be? "You're not like the guys I usually date," I told him after our 5th date. "Is that good or bad?" he asked, genuinely uncertain. "Good," I assured him. "Very, very good." Mother knew nothing about James. By then, I'd learned to compartmentalize my life expertly. There was San Francisco Olivia, who went hiking on weekends and tried new restaurants and fell asleep to James's stories about his latest coding challenges. And there was daughter Olivia, who provided carefully edited updates during obligatory phone calls. "Are you seeing anyone?" Mother would ask, her maternal radar apparently functional even from 400 miles away. "Nothing serious," I'd lie, looking at the flowers James had brought me just because it was Tuesday. She escalated her efforts. The visiting connections increased. She started sending newspaper clippings about successful women who'd balanced career and family, all married by 29, naturally. Once she actually hired a private investigator to check on me, though he was so obvious I spotted him within a day and led him on a boring tour of organic grocery stores until he gave up. "She means well," James said when I finally told him about Mother. We'd been dating for 6 months, and I couldn't keep the two halves of my life separate anymore. That's what everyone says about controlling parents, but meaning well and doing good aren't the same thing. "No," he agreed, "they're not. But she can't control you from Orange County. You've already won by leaving." But I hadn't won. Not really. I was still lying, still hiding, still letting her opinion matter more than my own happiness. Every time she visited, James became a ghost. I'd remove all traces of him from my apartment, hide his engineering books and his coffee mug and the photos of us exploring Northern California together. I'd become single Olivia again, enduring her inspections and interventions and introductions. "This is exhausting," James said after the 4th time I'd made him disappear. "I feel like I'm dating a spy." "I'm sorry," I said, and I was. If she knows about you, she'll ruin it. She'll find some way to make you wrong, to make me doubt this, and I can't lose you to her opinions." He pulled me close, this man who wrote elegant code and made terrible puns and saw me as complete rather than lacking. "You won't lose me to anyone's opinions. But Olivia, at some point, you're going to have to choose. Her approval or your life. You can't have both." She was right. The double life was unsustainable. Every lie was a weight, every hidden truth a crack in the foundation I was building. But I wasn't ready yet to make that choice. I still believed, somehow, that I could have both, the life I wanted and the mother who would accept it. I should have known better. Carmen Martinez didn't accept anything she hadn't personally orchestrated. The calls increased. The visits grew longer. The eligible bachelors appeared with alarming frequency. She was tightening the net, trying to reel me back to the life she'd planned. "You're 32. She reminded me during one particularly tense phone call. "The clock is ticking, Olivia. Whatever you're trying to prove, haven't you proven it by now?" What I was trying to prove was that I existed outside her narrow definitions, that I could build something beautiful without her blueprint, that love didn't require a pedigree or a portfolio or her personal stamp of approval. But I couldn't tell her that. Not yet. So I deflected and delayed, made excuses and told half-truths, all while James and I grew closer, stronger, more certain that what we had was worth protecting from anyone who might try to tear it down. "When you're ready," he'd say when the topic of my mother came up. "I'll be here when you're ready." I thought I had time. I thought I could manage both lives indefinitely, keeping them in separate boxes like seasonal decorations. But secrets have a way of demanding daylight, and Carmen Martinez had never met a boundary she wouldn't cross. The collision was coming. I just didn't know it yet. Chapter 4, The Proposal. The proposal happened on a foggy Saturday in January. Nothing like the elaborate productions Mother had always described as proper. James and I were cooking brunch together in my apartment. Nothing fancy, just eggs Benedict and mimosas, when he suddenly stopped whisking the hollandaise and turned to me. "I can't do this anymore," he said, and my heart dropped into my stomach. "Do what?" I asked, preparing for the worst. "Pretend that this is casual. Pretend that I don't want to wake up next to you every morning for the rest of my life." He reached into his pocket, apparently he'd been carrying this around, and pulled out a small velvet box. "I know your mother doesn't know I exist. I know this isn't how it's supposed to go according to whatever script she's written. But Olivia, I love you. Not your trust fund or your connections or what your last name represents. Just you. Will you marry me?" The ring was perfect, not because it was huge or expensive, it wasn't, but because it was absolutely what I would have chosen if I'd been brave enough to hint. A simple emerald surrounded by tiny diamonds, unique without being ostentatious, beautiful without screaming its worth. "Yes," I said, not hesitating even a second. "Yes, of course, yes." We decided to elope. A big wedding would mean involving Mother, and I couldn't imagine trying to plan something joyful while managing her disappointment in everything from James's profession. Coding wasn't lucrative enough by her standards. To the guest list. Too many artists, not enough doctors. Instead, we drove to Big Sur on a Wednesday in February, just us and 2 friends as witnesses, and got married on the cliffs overlooking the Pacific. "No regrets?" James asked as we stood there, salt spray in our hair, waves crashing below us. "Only that I didn't do this sooner," I told him, and meant it. The plan was to tell Mother eventually, after the honeymoon, after we'd had time to settle into married life, after some mythical perfect moment would arrive and make the conversation easier. But life doesn't wait for perfect moments. I found out I was pregnant 4 months after the wedding. We were over the moon. We'd talked about kids, wanted them, just hadn't expected it to happen so quickly. But with the joy came terror. How could I hide a pregnancy from Mother? How long could I maintain this double life with a baby on the way? "We have to tell her," James said gently. "She's going to be a grandmother." "She's going to be furious," I corrected. "A grandmother to a child whose father she's never met, from a marriage she didn't approve. She'll disown me." "Would that be such a bad thing?" he asked, and I couldn't answer because I honestly didn't know. We'd moved into our house by then, the Manhattan Beach cottage I'd fallen in love with at first sight. It needed work, but it was ours. No trust fund down payment, no family money, just our combined savings and a mortgage we could actually afford. I'd already started working on what would become the nursery, painting it soft yellow, gender neutral and hopeful. Mother's visits became increasingly difficult to manage. I was showing by month 6, and no amount of strategic wardrobe choices could hide it forever. I started making excuses. Work trips, food poisoning, a fictional conference in Portland that lasted 2 weeks. "You're being very strange lately," she said during one phone call. "Are you ill? You sound different." Different. Happier than I'd ever been. Terrified of her reaction. Growing a human being while maintaining an elaborate lie. "Just busy with work," I deflected. "Too busy for your mother?" "I'm flying up next week. We need to discuss your future." Panic. Pure, immediate panic. I was 7 months pregnant, visibly glowing with that pregnancy radiance that's impossible to hide. Living in a house she didn't know existed with a husband she'd never met. Next week's not good. "I've already booked the flight, Tuesday through Friday. And Olivia, I'm bringing someone I want you to meet. The Rodriguez boy just moved to San Francisco for his residency at UCSF. Very accomplished." I hung up and immediately called in sick to work, though whether from morning sickness or anxiety, I couldn't tell. "We'll figure something out," James assured me, rubbing my back as I dry heaved into our kitchen sink. What we figured out was perhaps the most elaborate deception of my life. I rented a studio apartment for the week. Actually rented it, complete with furniture rental and staged photos of a sad single life. James and I spent days creating the perfect facade of loneliness. We hung clothes I hadn't worn in years, placed outdated business books on shelves, created a vision of the life Mother expected me to be living. "This is insane," James said as we arranged fake mail on the counter. "We're staging a fake life so you can hide your real one." "Welcome to my childhood," I replied. The week of Mother's visit, James stayed with his colleague Martinez. I moved into the fake apartment, like 7 months pregnant and exhausted from maintaining the charade. Every morning, I'd wake up in that sterile space, missing my husband, missing my real home, missing the life I'd built but couldn't claim. Mother arrived with her usual fanfare, and true to her word, with Dr. Rodriguez in tow. He was everything her previous candidates had been, accomplished, well-connected, and completely wrong for me. "You look different," she said immediately, surveying me with those sharp eyes. "Have you gained weight?" "A little," I admitted, grateful for the Empire waist dress that disguised my bump. "Stress eating." "Well, stop it. Dr. Rodriguez doesn't need to see you at less than your best." Dr. Rodriguez, it turned out, was actually a decent guy who seemed as uncomfortable with the situation as I was. Over dinner, he quietly mentioned his boyfriend back in Orange County, a detail that had somehow escaped Mother's reconnaissance. "I'm just here to make my parents happy," he whispered, while Mother was interrogating the waiter about wine selections. "No offense." "None taken," I whispered back. "I'm married, actually." "She doesn't know." His eyes widened. "How long?" "Almost a year. We have a baby on the way." He looked at me with a mixture of admiration and horror. "That's incredibly brave or incredibly stupid." "Both," I admitted. "Definitely both." The rest of the week was torture. Mother critiqued everything about my fake life. The apartment, too small. The neighborhood, too hipster. My job, still just a phase. She dragged me to dinners where she not so subtly promoted my availability to every eligible man in San Francisco's medical community. I don't understand you, she said on her last day, sitting in my fake apartment surrounded by my fake life. You could have everything, a proper husband, a real home, children who would grow up with advantages. Instead, you're here playing at independence, wasting your best years on some feminist fantasy. I sat there, my hand unconsciously resting on my hidden belly where my daughter was doing somersaults, and realized James was right. This had to end. The lie was becoming bigger than the truth, requiring more energy to maintain than my actual life required to live. What if I'm happy? I asked quietly. Happy? She laughed, that cutting sound I'd heard all my life. Happiness is what people settle for when they can't achieve success. I raised you for more than happiness, Olivia. After she left, I drove straight home, my real home, and collapsed into James's arms. Emma, though we didn't know her name yet, kicked between us, a reminder of what actually mattered. Never again, I promised. I'm done hiding us. But promises are easier made than kept, and patterns established over a lifetime don't break easily. When Emma was born, a beautiful, spirited little girl who entered the world with her eyes wide open, I told Mother I was taking a sabbatical to reassess my career goals. When she took her first steps, I said I was too busy with a major client campaign to visit. When she said her first word, Kitty, not Mama, much to my amusement, I was supposedly at a marketing conference in Seattle. The double life continued, even as it became more absurd. A husband who didn't exist in my mother's world. A daughter she didn't know she had. A house full of love and laughter and finger paintings that I had to pretend wasn't mine. This has to stop, James said when Emma turned 3. She's going to start asking questions. Why doesn't she have a grandma? Why do I have to hide when someone calls? He was right. I was perpetuating the very cycle I'd tried to escape, teaching my daughter to hide parts of herself for someone else's comfort. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I was becoming my mother, just in reverse, curating a false reality to avoid conflict. But the alternative, telling her the truth, felt impossible. 3 years of lies had created a web I couldn't see how to untangle without destroying everything. She'd never forgive the deception, never accept James, never embrace Emma. The family I'd built would become a battleground, and I wasn't ready for that war. So I continued the charade, even as it poisoned the thing it was meant to protect. Every lie to Mother was a small betrayal of my real family. Every I'm still single was a denial of James's existence. Every hidden photo of Emma was a rejection of her right to be known and celebrated. The weight of it was crushing, but not as crushing as what was coming. The moment when all those carefully separated worlds would collide, and I'd have to choose, finally and irrevocably, between the mother who raised me and the family I'd raised in secret. Chapter 5. The unraveling. The cracks in my double life were showing everywhere. James's patience, saintly for 3 years, was wearing thin. Not with anger. James didn't do anger, but with a sadness that was somehow worse. Emma asked me why she can't talk to Grandma Carmen on the phone, he told me one evening, after I'd rushed them out of the house for another surprise mother visit. What am I supposed to tell her? What did you say? I said Grandma lives far away and doesn't know how to use video calls properly. He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I recognized as barely contained frustration. I'm teaching our daughter to lie, Olivia. Me, the guy who still returns extra change at the grocery store. He was right. We built this beautiful, honest life together, and I was poisoning it with deception. Emma was starting to notice things too. Why certain photos came down when Mommy got stressed. Why they had to play the quiet game when certain calls came in. Why Mommy sometimes looked sad after talking to someone called Grandma Carmen. The breaking point started small, as these things often do. Mother had called during Emma's bath time. I'd stepped into the hallway to take it, leaving James to manage the bubbles and rubber ducks. I've been thinking, Mother announced without preamble. It's time for an intervention. An intervention? You're 34, Olivia. 34 and still single. I've scheduled an appointment with a therapist who specializes in commitment issues. You need to address whatever's blocking you before it's too late. I don't have commitment issues. Really? Then explain why you've rejected every suitable man I've introduced. The therapist thinks you might have attachment disorders from your unconventional upbringing. We need to address this systematically. Mommy, Emma called out. Daddy made bubble mountains. I covered the phone, heart racing. Just a minute, sweetheart. What was that? Mother's voice sharpened. It sounded like a child. Television. I lied. I was watching a show. You know how loud children's programs are. But the seed of suspicion was planted. She started calling at odd hours, trying to catch me off guard. She hired a new private investigator, one who actually knew what he was doing. She even contacted my office, fishing for information about my lifestyle under the guise of planning a surprise visit. We need to tell her, James said for the 100th time. This is getting out of control. After the holidays, I promised. Always after something. Then came the family reunion invitation, the one I couldn't refuse. Diego's wedding celebration, a formal affair at the country club, mandatory attendance for all family members, no excuses accepted. I'll say I'm sick, I planned. You've been sick for 3 family events, James pointed out. She's going to show up with a medical team if you try that again. So I went, leaving my real life on a Friday afternoon, kissing my husband and daughter goodbye like I was going to war instead of a party. The drive felt like traveling backward through time, each mile undoing the person I'd become. The country club was exactly as I'd left it, immaculate, intimidating, and cold despite the summer heat. Extended family had gathered from across California, all there to celebrate Diego's engagement to his suitable lawyer. Olivia? My cousin Isabella air-kissed me. Still married to your career, I see? How wonderfully modern of you. Some of us are just more selective, I replied, the old script coming back easily. Mother held court by the pool. Diego and his fiancée displayed like trophies. She was in her element, orchestrating conversations and managing impressions with the skill of a corporate CEO. Olivia is here, she announced to the assembled crowd, somehow making my arrival sound like both a surprise and a disappointment. Still single, of course, but we're working on that. Mom, Diego said quietly, showing more backbone than usual. Maybe Olivia is happy as she is. Don't be ridiculous, Mother dismissed. No one's happy alone. She just hasn't met the right person yet. I stood there by the pool, surrounded by family who knew only the version of me Mother had curated, and felt the weight of 3 years of lies pressing down. Somewhere in Manhattan Beach, James was probably reading Emma her favorite story, the one about the little girl who learns that being different is actually being special. They were my home, my real family, and I'd left them to play act in this museum of my former life. The party was its usual performance. Mother had seated me between 2 eligible men, a dermatologist and a tech entrepreneur, who'd clearly been briefed on my situation. They took turns trying to impress me while Mother watched approvingly from across the table. Olivia works in marketing, she told them, managing to make my career sound like a temporary hobby. Though, of course, that would change after marriage and children. I love my job, I said firmly. For now, Mother smiled. But priorities shift when you meet the right person, don't they, Dr. Patterson? The dermatologist launched into a story about his ex-wife, who'd found fulfillment in leaving her career to support his practice. I stabbed my grilled salmon with perhaps more force than necessary. That's when she delivered the blow that would change everything. Poor Olivia, Mother laughed, addressing the table. 34 and still alone. At this rate, I'll need to get her a cat for companionship. The table chuckled politely. Diego's fiancé looked uncomfortable. I felt something inside me snap, literally snap, like a rubber band stretched too far. No wonder you're still single at 34, Mother continued, warming to her theme. You've always been too stubborn for your own good. Remember, everyone, how she insisted on that San Francisco nonsense? I practically had to drag her back to reality. Mom, Diego tried to intervene. Oh, I'm just teasing. She waved him off. But really, Olivia, what's your plan? Wait until you're 40? At some point, you have to accept reality. I set down my fork carefully, deliberately. Around the table, conversations continued, but I'd gone somewhere quiet inside myself. Somewhere I could hear Emma's laughter and James's gentle voice reading bedtime stories, and the way our cottage felt like a sanctuary from exactly this kind of performance. Excuse me, I said, standing. I need some air. I walked out to the garden, to the spot where I used to hide when Mother's expectations became too heavy. The Orange County skyline was hazy in the evening light, dulled by smog and perhaps by the weight of all the pretense behind me. My phone buzzed. A text from James. Emma insisted on wearing her tutu to the grocery store, paired it with her rain boots because princesses need practical shoes. Thought you should know you're raising a genius. Attached was a photo of my daughter in her mismatched outfit, grinning at the camera with James's kindness and my stubborn chin. My real life in pixels and love, 400 miles away. There you are. Mother's voice cut through the evening air. You can't just leave in the middle of dinner. I needed a break from... I gestured vaguely. From what? People trying to help you? She stood beside me, perfectly postured even in anger. Do you know how embarrassing it is? My only daughter refusing to grow up, playing at independence while her biological clock ticks away. What if I told you? I started, then stopped. Told me what? Another excuse? Another reason why you're special and different and don't need what everyone else needs. She turned to face me fully. I've been patient, Olivia. More patient than any mother should have to be. But this stops now. You're going to therapy. You're going to make an effort, and you're going to stop this childish rebellion. It's not rebellion, I said quietly. It's my life. Your life? She laughed, that crystalline sound that could cut glass. Your life is a rented apartment and a job that barely pays your expenses. Your life is watching everyone else move forward while you stand still, stuck in some prolonged adolescence. I almost told her then. The words crowded my throat. I have a life. I have everything you think I need. I have more love than you've ever shown me. But the photo of Emma on my phone reminded me why I'd kept the secret so long. Once Mother knew, she'd try to fix us, mold James into someone suitable, turn Emma into another perfect Martinez princess, poison the beautiful life we'd built with her particular brand of concerned control. I should go, I said instead. Go? She was incredulous. We're in the middle of a family celebration. Your celebration, your family, your rules. I just can't do this anymore tonight. I left her in the garden and went back through the club, making polite excuses about a work emergency. Diego caught me at the door. You okay? He asked quietly. No, I admitted, but I will be. The drive back to Manhattan Beach felt like surfacing from deep water. Each mile was a breath, a return to myself. By the time I reached home, my real home, it was past midnight. James was awake, waiting in our kitchen with tea and the kind of patience that had sustained me through 3 years of lies. "How was it?" he asked, though my face must have told the story. "I almost told her," I said. "She pushed and pushed, and I almost—" "But you didn't." "No. But James, I can't do this anymore. The lying is killing me. It's killing us." He pulled me close, and I breathed in the scent of our life. Children's shampoo and his cologne, and the vanilla candles Emma insisted made everything more magical. "So we tell her," he said simply. "We tell her and deal with whatever comes. She'll be horrible. Probably. She'll try to break us up. She can try. She'll never accept you. Never accept this." "Then that's her loss." He pulled back to look at me. "Olivia, we have a beautiful life. A daughter who thinks wearing tutus to grocery stores is perfectly logical. A home full of love and terrible dad jokes. If your mother can't see the value in that, then maybe it's time to stop seeking her approval." He was right. Of course he was right. But 34 years of conditioning doesn't break easily. And the thought of finally definitively choosing my family over her approval was terrifying. Still, as I climbed into bed beside my husband in our perfect home, I knew something had shifted. The next time Mother called, things would be different. The double life was becoming too heavy to carry, and I was ready, finally, truly ready, to set it down. Chapter 6. The Moment of Truth. The family reunion haunted me for weeks. Mother's words, "No wonder you're still single at 34, echoed in quiet moments when I was helping Emma with her art projects, or watching James debug code late into the evening. The contempt in her voice, the absolute certainty that my life was a failure, had burrowed under my skin like a splinter. "You're somewhere else again," James observed one evening. We were doing dishes together, Emma already asleep, the house settling into nighttime quiet. "Just thinking about her," I nodded, unable to deny it. "She laughed at your life," he said softly. "At who she thinks you are." "But that's the problem, isn't it? That I've spent so much energy hiding my real self that her perception has become a kind of reality. In her world, I am that single, stubborn, disappointing daughter. The fact that her perception was based on lies I'd told didn't make her words hurt less. The universe, apparently tired of my indecision, started forcing my hand. It began with small things. Emma had started preschool and came home with family tree assignments. "This is Daddy," she explained proudly, showing off her crayon figures. "This is me. This is Mommy." She paused, little forehead wrinkling. "Where's our grandma? Sophie has 2 grandmas." "You have a grandma," I'd say carefully. "She just lives far away." "Can she visit? Can we call her?" "Can she come to our school play?" Emma was persistent, the way only 4-year-olds can be. She asked about grandmas constantly. Why did her friend Zoe have a grandma who made cookies while she had one who never visited? Where exactly did Grandma Carmen live? Could we send her pictures? James fielded the questions when I couldn't, but I saw the toll it was taking. We were asking him to explain the inexplicable to a child who deserved better than carefully crafted half-truths. Then Mother escalated her campaign. The therapist she'd mentioned wasn't an idle threat. She'd actually booked appointments, scheduled them around her planned visits, even paid in advance. She sent me the receipts with a note, non-refundable. "I expect you there next month." "Just don't go," James suggested. "You're a grown woman living 400 miles away. What's she going to do?" "You don't understand. If I don't go, she'll show up here with the therapist. She's done crazier things. Then tell her the truth. I will. Just not yet." "Olivia." His voice held 3 years of patience worn thin. "When? When Emma's in high school. When we're explaining why she's never met half her family. When exactly is the right time?" I didn't have an answer. The breaking point came, ironically, through Emma's innocent enthusiasm. She'd been learning about families in school, family trees, specifically. She came home with an assignment to fill in all the branches with grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins. "I need pictures," Emma announced, clutching the paper with determination. "Mrs. Rodriguez says we're going to show them to the whole class." I watched our daughter carefully write her name in the trunk of the tree, her letters wobbly but proud. She filled in Mommy and Daddy, then looked up expectantly. "Where does Grandma Carmen go?" she asked. My heart stopped. "Where did you hear that name?" "You say it sometimes when you're on the phone. Is that our grandma?" James and I exchanged looks over her head. 3 years of careful segregation, undone by a 4-year-old's keen ears. "Yes," I said finally. "That's your grandma." "Can I put her on my tree?" "Of course, sweetheart. Do we have a picture?" I found one, an old photo from Diego's graduation, the only recent one where Mother looked somewhat approachable. Emma studied it seriously. "She looks fancy," she decided. "Does she like tutus?" "I don't know." "Everyone likes tutus," Emma said with the confidence of someone who wore tutus to grocery stores. "Can she come to our presentation?" "We'll see." But Emma, inheritor of my stubborn streak and James's problem-solving skills, took matters into her own hands. The next day, while I was distracted with a client call, she found my phone. "What are you doing, sweetheart?" James asked, coming into the kitchen. "Calling Grandma Carmen," she said matter-of-factly, "for our tree." He lunged for the phone, but it was too late. Mother had answered. "Olivia, finally. I was beginning to think you were avoiding my calls about therapy." "Hi," Emma chirped. "Is this Grandma Carmen?" "I'm Emma." The silence that followed was deafening. I grabbed the phone, but the damage was done. "Who is this?" Mother's voice was ice. "Mommy, is Grandma mad?" Emma asked, her face crumpling. "Go find Daddy," I told her gently. "Mommy needs to talk to Grandma alone." Emma scampered off, and I lifted the phone with trembling hands. Olivia, Carmen, Martinez. Each word was a bullet. Explain. Now. Mom, Is that child yours? Yes. How old? 4. She's 4. 4 years. She was doing the math. I could hear it in her voice. You've had a child for 4 years and didn't tell me. The silence stretched so long I wondered if she'd hung up. When she finally spoke, her voice was unlike anything I'd heard from her before. Not cold, not cutting, but genuinely bewildered. A granddaughter. 4 years old. She laughed, but it wasn't her usual crystalline sound. It was broken, almost hysterical. My daughter has had a child for 4 years and I didn't know. Mom. No. The ice was back. No, you don't get to mom me. Not after this. I'll be there tomorrow. Tomorrow? But tomorrow, Olivia, and you'll explain everything. Everything. She hung up. I stood in my kitchen, phone in hand, the life I'd built suddenly feeling as fragile as Emma's crayon drawings. Daddy says you're sad, Emma announced, returning with James in tow. Are you sad about Grandma? A little, I admitted. When I'm sad, I wear my tutu, she offered. Do you want to borrow it? Despite everything, I laughed. Maybe later, sweetheart. After Emma was in bed, James and I sat on the couch, strategizing like generals before a battle. She'll be horrible, I predicted. She'll criticize everything. You, the house, Emma's clothes, my choices, our marriage. Olivia, he took my hands. She can criticize all she wants, but she can't change what we've built. We're solid, the three of us. We're solid. What if she tries to take Emma? She has money, connections. She has nothing. We're Emma's parents. We're married. We've done nothing wrong except protect our family from someone who would have tried to destroy it. I should have told her sooner. Maybe. Or maybe you knew exactly what you were doing. Maybe protecting us from her judgment was the best gift you could have given our early years together. I leaned into him, this man who'd stood by me through 3 years of deception and difficulty. I love you. I love you too. And tomorrow your mother will see exactly what her daughter has become. Not a disappointment, but a woman with a beautiful family who was strong enough to build it without her approval. But as I lay awake that night, listening to James's steady breathing and the occasional murmur from Emma's room, I wondered if strength would be enough. Mother had spent 34 years shaping me, molding me, trying to perfect me. Tomorrow she'd see the life I'd chosen instead of the one she'd planned. Part of me was terrified. But another part, a part that grew stronger with each of Emma's laughs, each of James's smiles, each day in our imperfect, perfect life, was ready. Ready to stop hiding, ready to stop apologizing, ready to show Carmen Martinez that her daughter hadn't failed at all. She'd simply succeeded at something different than expected. The confrontation was coming, and for the first time in 3 years, I wouldn't run from it. My family, my real family, was worth fighting for, even if it meant facing the woman who taught me that love always came with conditions. Tomorrow, I'd show her what unconditional actually looked like. Whether she could see it or not was no longer my concern. Chapter 7. The confrontation. The hours after Mother's call were a whirlwind of preparation. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, could only pace our living room while James made lists and contingency plans like the engineer he was. We need documentation, he said. Laptop open. Marriage certificate, Emma's birth certificate, photos showing our life together. If she tries to claim this is some kind of fraud. She won't care about documents, I interrupted. She cares about appearances, about how this looks to her social circle, her charity board friends. Then we make it look good. He closed the laptop and pulled me down beside him. Stop thinking like her. This isn't about winning her approval anymore. It's about showing her who you really are. But who was I really? For 3 years, I'd been two people, the daughter she expected and the woman I'd chosen to become. Tomorrow, those two versions would collide, and I had no idea which one would survive. The next morning came too fast. Emma, blissfully unaware of the impending drama, chattered through breakfast about her family tree project. Can Grandma Carmen see my art wall? She asked. I want to show her my butterfly painting. Maybe, I managed, pushing cereal around my bowl. We'll see how the visit goes. And my dollhouse, she added, and Princess Whiskers. Princess Whiskers was her favorite stuffed unicorn, a well-loved toy missing half its mane. We'll see how it goes, I repeated. James had taken the day off work. United front, he said firmly. She doesn't get to divide and conquer. By afternoon, I'd cleaned the house 3 times, changed clothes twice, and rehearsed 15 different versions of explanations. None of them seemed adequate for explaining 3 years of deception. Stop, James said, catching me rearranging the same picture frame for the 4th time. The house is perfect. You're perfect. Emma's perfect. If she can't see that, it's her loss. The doorbell rang at exactly 2 p.m. My stomach dropped. I'll get it, I said, but my feet wouldn't move. Together, James decided, taking my hand. Emma raced ahead of us. Grandma, she shouted, flinging open the door before we could stop her. Mother stood on our porch like a monument, perfectly composed, expensively dressed, and absolutely rigid. She stared at Emma, who was wearing her favorite outfit, a purple tutu, dinosaur t-shirt, and sparkly sandals. Hello, Emma said, suddenly shy. I'm Emma. Are you my Grandma Carmen? Mother's gaze traveled from Emma to me to James, cataloging everything in seconds. James's casual clothes, my nervous face, the modest cottage behind us, the life I'd hidden. Yes, she said finally, voice carefully controlled. I suppose I am. Do you want to see my butterfly painting? Emma asked hopefully. It has glitter. Perhaps later. Mother's eyes never left mine. I need to speak with your parents first. We managed to get Emma settled with coloring books and snacks before gathering in the kitchen. Mother sat at our small table like a judge presiding over court, taking in every detail with those sharp eyes. 3 years, she began without preamble. You've been lying to me for 3 years. I didn't want to lie, but you did. Every phone call, every visit, every single conversation has been a lie. She turned to James. And you are? James Chen, he said, extending a hand she didn't take. Your son-in-law. My son-in-law. She tasted the words like they were foreign. Tell me, James Chen, what do you do? I'm a software engineer. I develop applications for nonprofit organizations. Of course you do. She turned back to me. Not from our world, I assume. No family money, no connections. A programmer. A good man, I interjected. A wonderful father. Someone who loves me for who I am, not what my last name represents. How romantic, she said dryly. And how exactly did this situation come about? You just decided to throw away everything I built for you. I didn't throw away anything. I built something different. Behind my back. In secret. Like a teenager sneaking around. Because I knew you'd react exactly like this, the words exploded out of me. Because I knew you'd judge and criticize and try to control everything. Control? She laughed bitterly. Is that what you call caring about your future? Making sure you don't waste your potential? My potential for what? For being exactly like you? For marrying someone I don't love because they have the right portfolio? For having standards? She stood abruptly. For understanding that choices matter, that family reputation matters, that... Mommy? Emma appeared in the doorway. Princess Whiskers clutched to her chest. Why is everyone yelling? The room went silent. Emma looked between us, her little face worried. We're just talking, sweetheart, I said gently. Adult talk. Why don't you go back to your coloring? Is Grandma Carmen mad? Emma whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear. Mother stared at her granddaughter, really looked at her for the first time. Emma stared back, all James's gentleness and my stubbornness wrapped in a 4-year-old's curiosity. I'm not mad, Mother said finally. I'm surprised. Good surprised or bad surprised, Emma pressed. Daddy says there are both kinds. I don't know yet, Mother admitted, perhaps the first honest thing she'd said. Emma considered this, then walked over to Mother with the confidence of a child who'd never met a stranger she couldn't charm. Do you want to hold Princess Whiskers? She offered. She helps when I don't know things. Mother took the stuffed unicorn automatically. This woman who commanded charity boards holding a battered toy while a 4-year-old patted her arm. Thank you, Mother said quietly. You're welcome. Mommy says we should always be kind, even when we're upset. Emma looked at me. Right, Mommy? Right, baby. Okay, I'm going back to my coloring now. But Grandma Carmen, you can keep Princess Whiskers until you feel better. She skipped out, leaving us in a kitchen that suddenly felt too small for all the unspoken words. Mother sat back down, still holding the unicorn. She's not what I expected. What did you expect? James asked mildly. I don't know. Some visible sign of dysfunction. She looked at the toy in her hands. She seems happy, I finished. She's a happy kid. Yes. Mother was quiet for a long moment. You've hidden her from me for 4 years. I was protecting her from... I started, then stopped. From me, she said quietly. You were protecting her from me. The admission hung in the air like smoke. Mom, No, you were right to. She set Princess Whiskers carefully on the table. I would have ruined it. I would have criticized James, tried to control your choices, imposed my will on every decision. You protected your family from me until it was strong enough to survive me. I felt tears threaten. I never wanted to hurt you. I know. And Olivia? She looked around our kitchen, taking in the children's artwork on the refrigerator, the family photos, the evidence of a life built on love rather than expectation. You did good. Better than good. You built something beautiful. It's not perfect, I said. We fight about whose turn it is to do laundry. Emma argues about everything. Sometimes James works late and I feel overwhelmed. It's real, she said simply. It's real in ways I never knew how to be. Later, after Mother had been given the full tour, Emma's room with its unicorn collection, the art wall, the photo albums chronicling a life she'd missed, we sat on the back porch while Emma played in the yard. I owe you an apology, Joe's mother said abruptly. Not just for my reaction today, but for everything. The pressure, the expectations, the attempts to control your life. I blinked, stunned. Carmen Martinez apologizing was like seeing a unicorn, theoretically possible, but practically unbelievable. I thought I was protecting you, she continued, giving you opportunities. I never considered I was taking away your choices. You were doing what you thought was best, I offered. No, she shook her head. I was doing what was best for the image I'd created, the perfect daughter, the perfect family. I never stopped to ask what you wanted. What changed? I had to know. She looked at Emma, who was now putting on a puppet show for her stuffed animals. Her. Watching her today, so free, so confident in who she is. You did that, you and James. You gave her what I never gave you, the freedom to be exactly who she is. We're not perfect parents, I said. We make mistakes. But you let her wear tutus with dinosaur shirts, Mother said with something almost like a smile. You encourage her imagination instead of correcting it. You celebrate her instead of trying to improve her. She doesn't need improving. She's already perfect. Yes, Mother agreed. She is. And Olivia, so are you. Just as you are. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. I felt tears threaten. Mom, I know I have no right to ask, she interrupted, but I'd like to try to be part of this. Not to change it or control it, just to be included. It won't be easy, I warned. We're not country club people. We shop at Target. We eat dinner at 6 because someone gets cranky. We have dance parties in the kitchen and watch princess movies on repeat. I can learn, she said simply, if you'll teach me. Before I could respond, Emma came running over. Grandma Carmen, Mommy says we can have ice cream before dinner if you say yes too. This mother looked at me. I nodded. Ice cream it is, Mother said. Can you stay for dinner? Emma asked hopefully. Mother looked at me again. I nodded once more. I can stay. As we went inside, Emma chattering about her favorite ice cream flavors, I realized this wasn't the dramatic confrontation I'd feared. There was no shouting match, no ultimatums, no choose between us moment. Instead, there was something better. The possibility of a future where my daughter could know her grandmother, where family dinners didn't require armor, where Carmen Martinez could sit in our modest kitchen, learning to be a different kind of grandmother than she'd been a mother. It wasn't perfect. We had years of hurt to work through, patterns to break, trust to rebuild. But watching Mother help Emma count sprinkles on her ice cream, while explaining the complex social dynamics of her stuffed animal kingdom, I felt something I hadn't expected. Hope. The revolution I'd planned had become something else entirely. Not a war, but a bridge. Not revenge, but redemption. And maybe, just maybe, that was better. Chapter 8. The Long Road. 6 months after Mother met her granddaughter, life had settled into a cautious new rhythm. She visited monthly, always calling ahead, always respecting our schedules. She'd learned to text, badly, and sent Emma photos of flowers and pretty buildings that made no contextual sense, but delighted her granddaughter anyway. The changes were small but significant. She stopped asking when I was going to come home to Orange County. She started referring to James as my son-in-law instead of Olivia's husband. She even bought Emma an art easel for her birthday, carefully researched to match her current passion for painting. But I should have known the piece was temporary. Carmen Martinez might have been learning to be a grandmother, but she was still Carmen Martinez. The call came on a Tuesday evening while I was helping Emma with a puzzle. I'm hosting my annual Christmas fundraiser next month, she announced. I'd like you all to come. Mom, we've been through this. Emma doesn't do well with late formal events, and honestly, neither do I anymore. Not that fundraiser. A new one. Family-focused, earlier in the day, child-friendly, princess-themed, if Emma would like. I nearly dropped the phone. You're hosting a princess-themed Christmas fundraiser? Don't be ridiculous. It's a Christmas fundraiser with princess elements, completely different. But I heard what she wasn't saying. She was trying in her way in her world. She was making space for us. We'll be there, I said. The night of the fundraiser, we arrived at the country club to find it transformed. Yes, it was elegant and formal. This was still Carmen Martinez, but there were touches of whimsy everywhere. Princess decorations alongside the Christmas trees, a children's area with crafts and games. The event was scheduled from 2 to 6, prime time for 4-year-olds. Grandma Carmen! Emma raced over in her special dress, red velvet with, yes, a tulle underlayer that satisfied her princess requirements. Look, she pointed excitedly, Christmas and princesses! I thought you might enjoy the combination, Mother said, and I caught the pleased look when Emma hugged her automatically. The room was filling with familiar faces, family, Mother's charity board friends, country club members, but also new faces. Families with children, people I recognized from various nonprofits James and I supported, our worlds cautiously merging. You've expanded the guest list, I observed. Evolution, Mother said simply. Even old habits can change. The event progressed smoothly. Emma charmed everyone as usual. James found himself in an animated discussion with a foundation director about nonprofit technology solutions. I watched Mother navigate between her old world and our new one with surprising grace. Then it happened, the moment I both anticipated and dreaded. Mother stepped up to the microphone for her traditional speech. The room quieted. This was Carmen Martinez's show, and everyone knew it. Thank you all for coming, she began, every inch the polished hostess. As many of you know, this year has been one of discovery for the Martinez family. I tensed. James found my hand. Some of you have known my daughter Olivia all her life. You watched her grow up, celebrated her achievements, perhaps wondered with me about her future. She paused, finding me in the crowd. I'm delighted to share that Olivia's future is even brighter than I imagined. Just different than I expected. Murmurs rippled through the room. 3 years ago, my daughter made a choice. She chose love over convention. She chose happiness over expectation. She chose to build a life that was truly hers rather than the one I'd planned for her. Mother's voice remained steady, but I saw emotion flickering underneath. She also chose to hide that life from me, and after considerable reflection, I understand why. The room was silent now, everyone sensing the weight of this moment. I believed I knew what was best. I believed success had a specific shape, that happiness followed a particular formula. I was wrong. She looked directly at me. Olivia, you tried to tell me so many times in so many ways. I'm sorry I didn't listen. Tears were flowing freely down my face now. James squeezed my hand tighter. But this isn't about my failures. Mother continued, her voice strengthening. This is about celebrating what Olivia built despite them. A strong marriage to a remarkable man who makes the world better through his work. A successful business she created from nothing. And most remarkably, a daughter who embodies everything I should have valued all along. Creativity, kindness, and the confidence to wear Princess Dinosaur dresses whenever she pleases. Light laughter rippled through the crowd. Emma, not understanding the significance but recognizing her cue, did a little curtsy. So I'd like to propose a toast. Mother raised her glass. To Olivia and James Chen, who built a beautiful life without my help or approval. To their daughter Emma, who teaches an old woman new lessons daily. and to the courage it takes to choose love over expectation, authenticity over approval, and family, real family, over everything else. The room erupted in applause. I was openly crying now, not the composed Martinez tears I'd been taught, but real, healing tears. Mommy, Emma tugged on my dress. Why are you crying? Happy tears, sweetheart. Sometimes we cry when we're really, really happy. Oh, she considered this. Like when we found Princess Whiskers after she got lost? Exactly like that. Mother made her way through the crowd to us. Up close, I could see she'd been crying too. Waterproof mascara be damned. I meant every word, she said quietly. I know. I can't undo the past, Olivia. The pressure, the judgment, the years of making you feel insufficient. But I can do better going forward. You are doing better. We all are. Emma, bored with adult emotions, tugged on Mother's dress. Grandma Carmen, they have a chocolate fountain. Can we go see? Of course. Mother allowed herself to be pulled away, but not before adding, your father would have been so proud of all of this, of all of you. As the event continued, I found myself watching my two worlds blend. Mother introducing Emma to her friends with obvious pride. James laughing with my cousins. Emma teaching a group of children her special princess wave. No dramatic confrontation after all, James observed. No public humiliation, no revenge served cold. Disappointed? He asked. Relieved, I said. This is better. Harder maybe, but better. He was right. Revenge would have been satisfying for a moment. This messy, complicated, gradual building of something new, this would last. Later, as we prepared to leave, Emma asleep in her car seat, Mother pulled me aside one last time. I've been thinking, she said, about your deception. 3 years of lies. My stomach dropped. Mom, I'm grateful, she interrupted. If you told me right away, I would have ruined it. I would have criticized James, tried to control your wedding, imposed my will on every decision. You protected your family from me until it was strong enough to survive me. That took wisdom I didn't give you credit for. I never wanted to lie to you. I know, and someday I hope you won't feel the need to. But Olivia, she touched my shoulder gently. You're a wonderful mother. The kind I should have been, the kind I'm trying to learn to be now. It's never too late, I offered. No, she agreed. It's not. As we drove home, Emma stirring in her seat, I reflected on the journey. The scared young woman who'd fled to San Francisco seeking freedom. The wife who'd built a life in secret. The mother who'd protected her family with silence. And now finally, the daughter who could stand in her truth without armor or apology. My phone buzzed. A text from Mother. Thank you for giving me another chance. Tell Emma the Children's Museum has a new princess exhibit. Perhaps we could go together. Look at that, James said, reading over my shoulder. Carmen Martinez planning princess museum trips. Never thought I'd see the day. Mommy, Emma's sleepy voice came from the back seat. Is Grandma Carmen happy now? I thought about Mother's speech, her tears, her careful attention to Emma all evening. The way she'd created space for us in her world while trying to enter ours. Yeah, sweetheart, I said. I think she finally is. Good, Emma yawned. Everyone should be happy. That's what families do. Make each other happy. From the mouths of babes. Again. As we pulled into our driveway, our cottage glowing warmly in the California evening, I realized my daughter was right. This was what families did. The real ones. The chosen ones. The ones you fought for and forgave and kept rebuilding. We'd started with a secret marriage and ended with a public celebration. Started with fear and ended with freedom. Started with 2 separate worlds and ended with one beautifully imperfect family. It wasn't the revenge story I'd once imagined. It was better. It was real. It was ours. And as I carried my sleeping daughter into the house she'd never have to hide in, I whispered a thank you to the universe for princess dresses and second chances and the courage to choose love over fear, truth over comfort, and family. Messy, complicated, wonderful family over everything else. Epilogue. 1 year later. Emma is 5 now, gap-toothed and full of opinions about everything from unicorn authenticity to the proper way to eat ice cream. With sprinkles, obviously. Mother visits every few weeks, and they've developed their own special relationship built on art projects and elaborate tea parties. Grandma Carmen knows the best princess stories, Emma announced last weekend, as if this were a crucial life skill worth celebrating. And maybe it is. James got promoted to senior engineer at his nonprofit, leading a team that's revolutionizing how volunteer organizations manage their programs. Mother actually attended his promotion celebration, asking intelligent questions about his work and seeming genuinely interested in the answers. Your husband is quite impressive, she told me afterward. I can see why you chose him. We're trying for another baby, just started. But the possibility fills me with joy rather than terror this time. No hiding, no secrets, just the normal anxiety of expanding our little family. Will the new baby like tutus too? Emma asked when we told her we were thinking about a sibling. We'll have to wait and see, I said. But they'll be loved no matter what they like. Good. Love is the most important thing. Grandma Carmen taught me that. The other day, I found Mother sitting on our couch reading The Princess and the Dragon to Emma with the same intensity she once reserved for charity board presentations. They were both completely absorbed, Emma asking questions about dragon psychology while Mother provided surprisingly thoughtful answers. We're not perfect. We still disagree about things. Emma's bedtime, my work schedule, the appropriate number of princess dresses one child needs. But we're real. We're honest. We're family. And sometimes when I'm tucking Emma into bed and Mother calls to say goodnight to her granddaughter, I think about the woman I was 3 years ago. hiding in a fake apartment, terrified of living her own truth. I don't miss her. The double life is over. The secret is out. And what remains is better than anything I could have planned. A family that chose each other again and again, until the choosing became as natural as breathing. That's the real happy ending, not the moment everything becomes perfect, but the decision to keep showing up, imperfectly and honestly, for the people who matter most, even when they insist on wearing princess dresses to the grocery store. Especially then.